that Bad Boys was supposed to star two white SNL actors? Bad Boys turns 30 years old this week, so here are some things I bet you never knew about it. The story behind Bad Boys starts with Martin Scorsese's Mean Streets. You see, future screenwriter George Gallo was following his passion for painting, but when he saw Mean Streets, he became obsessed with movies and screenwriting. He'd go on to write Wise Guys and Midnight Run, but before that, he wrote a spec script called Bulletproof Hearts, about two New York cops, one a ladies' man, the other a family man, who had to switch places to bring down a drug operation. In 1986, producers Jerry Bruckheimer and Don Simpson bought Bulletproof Hearts from Gallo for $55,000, which is equal to about $160,000 today. That's every newbie screenwriter's dream, but then the producers put the movie in a drawer. They were busy turning out hits like Beverly Hills Cop, Top Gun, and Days of Thunder. But after that last one was trashed by critics, Simpson and Bruckheimer vowed to make their next movie a good one, and so they circled back around to Bulletproof Hearts. At first, they set up the film at Hollywood Pictures, a Disney imprint, and they had some white-hot talent in mind for the leads, Dana Carvey and Jon Lovitz. The two of them had crushed it on Saturday Night Live, and Carvey was coming off of Wayne's World. Plus, Bruckheimer and Don Simpson had turned Eddie Murphy into an action star, so these SNL guys made sense. But Dana Carvey wasn't fully satisfied with the script, so they brought in Larry Ferguson, David Milch, and future alleged sex offender James Toback to do rewrites. The movie was retitled Bad Boys, but still Dana Carvey wasn't satisfied. According to Film School Rejects, Carvey wasn't comfortable with his character being a playboy womanizer, and so they brought on more writers to do script passes. Around this time, Simpson and Bruckheimer then hired Michael Bay to direct. This would be his feature film debut. Bay had only done music videos and commercials prior, but his style impressed the producers. As Bruckheimer told GQ, "We looked at a bunch of commercial directors because we'd had success with Tony Scott, and the one reel that stood out was Michael's. It had a wonderful sense of humor and a unique visual style like nobody else." Michael Bay shot some test footage with Carvey and Lovitz, but it just wasn't gelling. Bay explained to GQ that then Disney executive Jeffrey Katzenberg didn't think it was funny. Maybe it was too goofy. And so Dana Carvey and Jon Lovitz ended up dropping out of the project, and then Disney in turn sold it to Sony's Columbia Pictures for $3 million. Bruckheimer says Sony then wanted to cast Arsenio Hall as Mike Lowry, the part that Will Smith eventually played, because Arsenio was a big star at the time. Hall ended up passing on the project, and he later told The Hollywood Reporter that he regretted that decision. Quote, "Sometimes I made bad choices." The studio then went after Martin Lawrence, an up-and-coming TV star, for Marcus, who signed on right away. And as Lawrence recalled, there were a few names for the other lead, like Lawrence Fishburne. "I was riding down the street one time and I saw him, so I yelled out of the car asking if he would do Bad Boys. Lawrence Fishburne shook his head no. And then Michael kind of handpicked Will Smith. Smith was also making a name for himself on TV with The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but this was back when there was a firewall between TV and movies. It was rare for TV actors to make the jump to movies and be box office draws. Also, it was conventional wisdom at the time in Hollywood that two black leads couldn't sell tickets internationally. So this casting was considered risky. Meanwhile, the script was still in flux. The producers brought in Michael Barry, Jim Mulholland, and Doug Richardson to do rewrites. Somewhere along the way, the movie's setting had been switched from New York to Miami, and then those three screenwriters ended up as the film's final credited writers. But no one on the project was completely happy with the still unfinished screenplay. Michael Bay later said on the DVD commentary track, "You could drive trucks through the logic of some of the script." But by summer 1994, it was time to put up or shut up. The producers needed to get the movie made, and so Sony set the budget at a very modest $20 million, which is equal to $43 million today. Michael Bay on numerous occasions has claimed that was not enough, and he thinks they got a low budget because Sony didn't believe in the movie. Anyway, Bad Boys started filming on June 27th, 1994, in Miami. They shot at the Dade Tire Company, the Tides Hotel, the Mediterranean Biltmore Hotel, and the Dade County Courthouse. They turned the second floor of the Alfred DuPont building into a police precinct, and they shot the film's climax at the Miami Opa-locka Executive Airport. By all accounts, the Bad Boys production was incredibly scrappy. They were constantly writing and rewriting the script as they went along. According to GQ's oral history of Michael Bay, there were new pages being slid under doors at night in the hotel. Bruckheimer said Bay, quote, pushed really hard. The first day of filming, he did like 40-some setups. A normal director, you get 10 if you're lucky. The foot chase scene after the hotel shootout, for example, was all filmed in a single day. Bay says because of the limited budget, he had to get creative with the cinematography to make the movie look bigger than it actually was, which led to the film's iconic circle shot. Michael Bay and Martin Lawrence apparently didn't get along at first because Lawrence didn't like being controlled by some inexperienced white guy. But eventually, they had a discussion and patched things up. Likewise, in the DVD commentary, Bay says he had a hard time working with the local Miami crew because they weren't fully confident in his Bay's unorthodox way of shooting and cutting scenes. Bay and Will Smith also argued about Will Smith running without a shirt on late in the movie. Bay wanted Smith's shirt off, Smith disagreed, but eventually he gave in to the director, and Michael Bay believes this is the shot that turned Will Smith into a superstar. And Will Smith agreed, telling GQ, "That single image took me from a comedic television actor to a potential movie star. It was the first time that I heard women react to me with an audible gasp. There was a transformation from the cute guy next door who could make you laugh to a guy who might be able to handle himself in a bar fight and a bedroom." But Smith also didn't want to say "I love you" to Martin Lawrence's character in the film. Bay and Smith argued for hours over this, with Bay eventually giving in and telling Will Smith, "Do whatever you want." But then when they shot it, Smith decided to say the line anyway. All that said, throughout production, Michael Bay was very open to Lawrence and Smith improvising, partially because the script had been written for two white guys, and he wanted it to be in their voices. On the DVD commentary, Michael Bay credits their improv with saving the movie. But maybe the most emblematic story from production is about the shot of the bad guy's flaming body falling out of the exploding airplane. Bad weather initially prevented them from getting this shot, so line producer Bruce Pustin decided to just nix the shot from the movie entirely, saying they didn't have enough budget to get it done. Michael Bay was furious about this because he thought that was the moment where the audience claps. He told GQ, "I was literally going to punch him out." So Bay paid $25,000 out of his own pocket to get the shot before filming Wrapped. Out of bitterness when they filmed the scene, Michael Bay put the $25,000 check on the slate and wrote on it, "To Columbia Pictures from Michael Bay, $25,000. Just to make sure that the studio execs would see it when they watched the dailies. Bay says, "I didn't get the money back until after the movie made like $60 million, and I had to beg for it." Filming wrapped on August 31st, 1994, in time for Lawrence and Smith to return to their TV shows. Bay and editor Christian Wagner then assembled a cut of the movie and showed it to Sony. The studio loved it, and then gave him an additional $2 million to do some pickup shots. The additional scenes were either to clarify story logic or add in some comedy. One of those was the opening carjacking scene, which was based on true accounts of how carjackers will use beautiful women to distract drivers. The Porsche they used in that scene belonged to Michael Bay himself. The convenience store sequence was another added scene, which featured a lot of improvising from the leads. Bay also showed the movie to his mom, who didn't like how many F-bombs there were. So Michael Bay cut it back from 18 F-bombs to roughly 12. Bad Boys opened on 2,132 screens April 7th, 1995. It made $15.5 million opening weekend, beating out a Goofy movie. And then the movie went on to gross $141 million total worldwide, about 7 times its budget. $66 million of that was in the US, but $75 million came from the international box office, which was a big deal because it disproved the Hollywood myth that black-led movies couldn't do huge global business. As Michael Bay told Entertainment Weekly, Bad Boys literally changed the game on black actors. It's the first movie that really traveled overseas. The film's soundtrack was also pretty popular. It peaked at number 26 on the Billboard 200 and number 13 on the top R&B/hip-hop albums. Critics were very mixed on Bad Boys. Today, 44% of the 70 reviews assessed by Rotten Tomatoes are positive, but audiences loved it. Moviegoers gave it an A cinema score in theater exit polls. And the movie kickstarted Will Smith, Martin Lawrence, and Michael Bay's movie careers. It then took years to get a sequel in theaters, but in 2003, Bad Boys 2 made $273 million against a $130 million budget, and then it took another 17 years to get the next one. In early 2020, Bad Boys for Life made $426 million against the $90 million budget, which was closely followed by Bad Boys Ride or Die in 2024, which made $400 million against a $100 million budget. Altogether, the franchise has made $1.2 billion. The movies also spawned a TV spin-off, LA's Finest, which got 2 seasons on NBC from 2019 to 2020. The show was centered around Gabrielle Union's character and co-starred Jessica Alba. While Jerry Bruckheimer, Will Smith, and Martin Lawrence have said they're open to doing another Bad Boys movie, Bad Boys 5 has not yet been officially confirmed as of April 2025. But considering how successful this franchise has been, I think it's only a matter of time until Sony greenlights another one.